It's Jon Charles. I'm walking through Bellevue right now. I just went by Evergreens. Evergreens has locations now all over Seattle. I'm not sure, 4 maybe, a couple in Bellevue. One at the AGC building, which is being taken over by Russians. I was there last night. Pardon me, for a good portion of the afternoon, actually, and I survived a pretty big electricity hit last night, and it was seen by a lot of people. They tried to take over the counts, but what they do is they hit people when they're late, so there are only 2 of us. I'm not sure if the guy is okay, or if he's involved, but I believe he's linked to the boats, the police boats, and also Lakewood and Tacoma. So this is a very dangerous situation. I'm going through an area. There's Bellevue Tower across the street. The restaurant Purple was opened with our money, but doesn't seem to get into it as often as the Rainy City Grill does, which runs a catering area linked to about 4 or 5 restaurants. That's right behind it. Bellevue Tower is where they ran the air fronts out of. And many accounts linked to the Rabs, and I think linked to Madison Brooks. They really ran a huge operation out of there, but you know, this problem is so immense that it doesn't really stop there. So this is a big Chinese connection up in the condo right behind it, and they were supposed to house me there, but instead they had the bankers housed Chinese that are traveling through, or the Jongs, I'm not sure. But here's Men's Warehouse right here, and that's LA Fitness upstairs, and Gene Juarez was at the far end. The Coe family, Michael Coe, is very involved in this crime, but they believe there were murders by the Men's Warehouse linked to Goldfarb Jewelers, and the Goldfarbs, of course, going into the accounts, making a deal with the Africans, we believe, and some sort of looping. I definitely had a really strong connection to the African Mining Coalition on Facebook, and they super linked me, just like a page called Monaco Private Circles. So what they do is cover up everybody so they can't really link to my page. It doesn't mean that somebody else hasn't hijacked or commandeered and made those pages up to take advantage of me. But what I want you to see over here, because this is a real big crime hub. This is Bank of America, and Bank of America links to Nancy Wallace, Ike Wallace, but really Bank of China. So that's why I call it Blank Check of America is what they call it. Not Bank of America, Blank Check of America. Keller Williams right there. Bluepoint Technologies right next to it. And that's the W Hotel right behind it. Okay, so Keller Williams went into Kellerhan and Keller, which are loading facilities for the railroad. So gravel and sand, and used to be a grist mill, a wood mill right down there, which ended up being Seahawks camp. All illegal. Under the Jon Charles shipping. And we've got a couple other investors that were linked, but the money was transferred through Jon Charles shipping, the southland of Lake Washington, where the Seahawks camp is. This is the same problem we had with Paul Allen down on the south end of Lake Union, both in Seattle. So if you can see over here, there's a little veranda at the W, and they come down. Keller Williams will go ahead and let Bluepoint Technologies go ahead and do printouts, and they'll go ahead and take it down the bottom door of the W, and then take it upstairs to the restaurant at night. And they were actually distributing the information from the trust. Now, this Keller Williams is extremely, extremely dangerous place and may have been taken over by somebody else. We're not sure how many employees filtered through, but they took off again, they said. So they were into horse racing and golf. And now we're dealing with the Bel Air property money. Ruth Staley. Now, Deuce Staley has been traveling. He's been a thorn in my side ever since Thailand. So they had all the account information. And when I went to Thailand, they were already there trying to remove. And so when I got there, it stopped them. But then they got aggressive towards the other accounts. And I'm not sure if they actually ever made it into Australia. I know they tried to. This Will Jones and his father linked to the Staleys apparently too, and LA Fitness. LA Fitness handled money for me from the Life Fitness Trust, which is probably running money through another area. Life Fitness is a mystery to me because they did make a lot of money with weights, but it seems to me like maybe somebody is running something else through it, like I'm not sure, but LA Fitness was supposed to turn over management in the Bellevue building in ownership to me, and it went to somebody in California, and we know that. So the Westin is right next door. We had to the W, so we had property in the Westin. There's condominiums, and this is Karina Chang and Fred Chang. It's not Fred Charles. Went ahead and took over one of our electronics accounts, and I believe that was with not Sylvania or one of the other companies similar to Sylvania. Now this is a condominium that's very nice, and it's protected. You know, in the from the shopping mall, you go up to the condos. It's secure. It was safe. He was an electronics specialist. Is very dangerous. He's wired the building and the apartment. I've been there once to do a haircut. They were my clients, and they're also involved in taking boats and property in the San Juan Islands, linked to, I think, the explorations of Captain Cook or one of the other explorers in our family. But they are linked to our family through Gilbert and through Liedemar, the Liedemar connection, which connects to Hanover, which also takes us to other problems today. But it's very important that people understand the way these kids, and they're kids from Bellevue, and this is the Chris that I identified the other day, who's going into accounts again, and also Lisa Moreland or Morin. We also know that Moreland's a fake name. The family actually changed their names to get into an old banking account and make it look like they were families. So it's a big crime, and it's a stupid crime. So if we look over here, you're going to see the Dans family, Frederick and Charles Dans, who claimed they were linked to Walter Dans. Well, our family, the Charleses, we were in the trust for Disneyland, so, or for to be Disney kids. Actually, we had the opportunity, and these guys had scammed on the properties, which were actually not in the Dan's name; they were in the Charles name, from the railroads and from the other. And they opened the theaters with the old Disney money, and it's an easy mistake. They're a German family, but the lineage goes back to 1500s from my family, and that's why we're in the trust. So Doxa Church took over the building that used to be the theater, and that was linked to the John Dans theaters. So it was, the trust is Jon Charles, not John Dans, and the connection with Disney is through cousins. So the direct line of Dans isn't in the trust. They may have used money at the beginning of Disneyland. We do know they used properties, and they had a strong affiliation with the process of building and a lot of the rides. So through the steel and through the actual mechanics, through the patents. So this is important for them to know. Doxa Church has been handling serious airline tickets, golf tickets, seriously ticket fraud that they're guilty of, and we believe that they may have had vaults for the Charles family because of the property loans. So they actually had to go into John Lewis and Clark Theater, the Lewis and Clark account, and I believe one of the John Charles theater accounts, and actually open the theaters. They no longer run them. Their properties are being used by other people, but they link to our property taxes. So Melissa Dans, John Dans, Frederick Charles Dans are very guilty of not turning over our financial information and traveling around the world right now. It's very important that this problem is attended to immediately. They were actually using computers that they've got through the Griffin family, I believe. And that was to keep us out of the money. And this is part of the infiltration of the city of Bellevue, was Roger Griffin trying to cover up the crime and the duress he was put under. So whether it was threats or whether he actually was not really part of our family and maybe he changed his name, we don't know. It's a very, really strange situation that Roger Griffin had. What he did to ruin our lives. I mean, this is absolutely demolished. So Ruth Staley possibly went into Bel Air, but I do know that people are trying to give Mike, and he's black. A lot of our properties, nothing is theirs, and a lot of blacks are making calls pretending they're white, saying it's, pretending my family's saying it's Mike Miken's property. Nothing shows up at Mike Miken's, and absurd statements like, well, we had to open it up because we're looking for the freebies. Now that sounds like a 14-year-old or something. I mean, this is ridiculous that they're allowed to go in these accounts. We know for a fact that a policeman came in, checked the computers at the QFC and the Safeway, and told them not to use the computer at Safeway. It was definitely a stolen computer from our trust. And I had an encounter with a young man last night, and he started talking about people from the Pussycat Dolls and J-Lo, Obscure, and the Winans from the old comedy show. And these are people that have robbed my trust fund in the past. And so he actually was allowed in to use the computer by the Bellevue Fire Department this morning. They said it would be okay for him to go in. So now we have a very strong link with the Bellevue Fire Department, not only to the Polish community, Russian community, but to J-Lo, Ricky Martin, Fred Martin, and In Living Color. And so this TV show. So these are people that this guy was actually opening up for, we think, in Los Angeles with the help of Bellevue Fire Department, which means these firemen look like they were friends with the pornographer Scott Stevens in Los Angeles. They're usually tall, white, fit males. If you look up Scott Stevens, you'll see a certain branding style of gay pornography. So we feel that they are very much involved in kind of a social ladder climb from pornography to stardom and getting jobs with the fire department. A lot of these are linked to the Soviet space station, so we may have perversion in the space station with cameras on people in bathrooms and in their bedroom situations and things like that. So we believe that we have a strong case of this facial recognition, these cameras and things like that, maybe being a little too efficient, whether infrared scenes or whatever they get. We believe because of the involvement with Scott Stevens and the gay pornography that we have a big problem with the space station being involved in voyeurism. No longer is it called Voyager #2, it's called voyeurism #2. So I think we have extreme pornography action going on in outer space. So if they're involved with Scott Stevens, this is frightening that the fire department is actually trying to control these computers when it's our family's trust fund, still keeping me trapped here on the streets. This is Jon Charles. I'm at Bellevue. Packard is the property that was next to Keller, south end of Lake Washington. City of Renton's county clerk, land assessor, trying to involved in organized crime with Paul Allen and the Boeing Company. The Boeing Company land graces the runway, graces right over the shoreline truss. So this is a problem for Boeing right now, as we talk about the Shoreline Trust that's linked to the Charles. I mean, at some point, this has got to become obvious that this is not. This is the Shoreline Trust is a protection. The public trust is to protect shoreline on the properties owned in the purchased by the Greater Charles Trust, Jon Charles Shipping, Jon Charles Automotive, Jon Charles, yeah, all the different aspects of the trust. So this goes out in about 15 different directions, and there are no freebies in life. This is Jon Charles in Bellevue.